Good morning, dear students, and welcome back. In the previous video, you have seen the human heart, which is the pumping organ. The human heart is a cone shaped muscular organ with the size of a clenched fist. The blood flows through this heart. It carries fresh oxygen and the blood is pushed through the blood vessels by this muscular pump, which is of the size of our fist. So the heart, as you know, is located a little to the left of the middle of your chest and is about the size of your fist. What is fist? When you close all the fingers of your hand and make a fist, that is called as a clenched fist. The heart is located in the chest cavity between the two lungs and is slightly tilted towards the left side. The heart is protected by the rib cage. This organ is at the center of the circulatory system, and the purpose of the heart is to pump blood around the heart. The heart is made up of a specialized muscle which is called as cardiac muscle. What is the work or why this is called a specialized muscle? The reason is these muscles show continuous contraction and relaxation without any rest throughout the lifetime of a person. So, the human heart is a muscular organ in the circulatory system which is responsible for pumping blood throughout the blood vessels to our body. Now, the human heart has four chambers, namely right atrium and left atrium. The upper portion has right and left atrium, and the lower portion of the heart has the right ventricle and the left ventricle. So the heart has four chambers. The upper two chambers, which are smaller, are called as atria, auricles, or atrium, and the lower two chambers are bigger and they are known as ventricles. So the blood flows through these chambers. The right atrium to the right ventricle, then to the left atrium to the left ventricle. So then you have learnt that the heart is divided into a right side and a left side. And this partition or this division is done by a membrane or septum. The right side of the heart is made up of right auricle and right ventricle, and similarly, the left side of the heart is made up of left auricle and left ventricle. The auricles are the receiving chambers of the heart. Receiving chamber means they receive blood that is brought by the veins. When auricles contract, they push the blood into the ventricles, and the ventricles are the distributing chambers of the heart. Distributing chambers means the arteries which are attached to it, they transport the blood that is pumped into them from the ventricles to the different parts of the body. So, the flow of blood from the ventricles into the arteries, namely the pulmonary artery and the aorta, is regulated by the valves. Here also there is presence of valves. What is the work of valve? Valve regulates the backflow of the blood. Now here, as in the module, you can see inside the heart there are division there is division, right and the left. So the right side, it carries the oxygen poor blood, whereas the left side carries the oxygen rich blood. So, as you have learned, the chambers of the heart have different functions also. The atria, it collects the blood that enters the heart, and the ventricles, it pumps the blood out of the heart. The blood that is brought from the body is brought to the heart, and then it is taken to the lungs. Then on the right side you can see, on the left side you can see, the blood is brought from the lungs, and then through the heart it is pumped to various parts of the body. The presence of valve is seen in the atria, in between the atria and ventricles. The inner walls of the heart are connected by the tough tendons, and there is presence of valves between the atria and ventricles. It is separated by valves. The valves open and close to let the blood pass through them, and thereby it regulates the blood flow. Now, the question comes, how does the heart work? The right side of your heart, its major function is to receive blood from the body and then pump it to the lungs. The left side of your heart, it receives the blood which is purified by the lungs, and then that blood only is pumped out, and it is distributed to the different parts of our body. So, these are the few important terms which you need to remember to relate to what we are going to discuss now. The heart has four chambers, two atria and two ventricles, atria or auricles, and two ventricles. The veins, which carry deoxygenated blood, except the pulmonary vein, arteries, which carry oxygenated blood, except the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery, it carries deoxygenated blood, and pulmonary vein, it carries oxygenated blood. Then there is presence of valves at different places. The valves are present in the veins to prevent the backflow of the blood. The valves are also present in between the atrium and ventricles. There also, the work of valves is to open and close and let the blood pass through them. And this is how the blood is regulated inside the heart. Now, here are few important blood vessels which you need to remember, and these blood vessels are present inside the heart. Now, till now, the blood vessels which we were discussing about were the veins, arteries, and capillaries, which you have learned in the previous sessions. So, the veins, arteries, and capillaries are present throughout our body, but the blood vessels which we are going to discuss now, the two main blood vessels which we are going to talk about now, are the blood vessels which are present in the heart. So they are aorta and vena cava. These are the two main blood vessels. Now, aorta is the main artery which carries oxygenated blood from the left ventricle of the heart to the tissues of the body. That means from the ventricle, the blood which is pumped out is pumped to the aorta. Aorta is the biggest artery. Okay, it is the biggest artery. So the blood from the ventricle is pumped into aorta, and through the aorta it is distributed to the different parts of our body. So the aorta, it leaves the left ventricle carrying oxygenated blood to all parts of the body through its branches. Another important blood vessel is vena cava. Vena cava are two main veins which bring the oxygen poor blood. Bring oxygen poor blood means they bring the blood which is containing carbon dioxide. The amount of oxygen is less and the amount of carbon dioxide is more. And as you know, the work of veins is to collect the oxygen poor blood from the different parts of the body and bring it to the heart. All right. So it is the vena cava where the two main veins bring the blood to the right atrium of the heart from the upper half of the body and the lower half of the body. Now, what does that mean? Upper half and lower half? That means upper half of the body is the part of the body which is present above the heart, and the lower half of the body is the part of the body which is below the heart. Okay, so it is the two different veins, two main veins, which bring the oxygen poor blood from the lower part of your body and from the upper part of your body to the heart into the right atrium. Then the other two important blood vessels are the pulmonary arteries and the pulmonary vein. The pulmonary arteries bring blood with less oxygen content to the lungs, where the blood is enriched with oxygen. How is it enriched with oxygen? About it you have learned that the gaseous exchange takes place inside the lungs. The lungs have the presence of alveoli where this exchange of gas takes place. Oxygen is taken from the lungs into the blood and carbon dioxide from the blood is given out. So this blood is enriched with oxygen and then it is transported back into the heart with the help of pulmonary veins. So this oxygenated blood, it travels into the heart's left atrium and then it is pumped to the left ventricle, from where it is circulated through the aorta to the arteries which carry the oxygenated blood throughout all parts of the human body. Now, the next topic that we have to discuss is about the circulation of blood. How the blood is circulated inside our body. So, let me tell you, there are two main types of blood circuits which are seen in the human body. In the first type of circuit, the blood flows from the right side of the heart to the lungs. So now, first of all, let me explain to you what is LA, LV, RV and RA. LA, as you can see here, is the left auricle, LV is the left ventricle, RA is the right auricle, and RV is the right ventricle. So, in this type of circuit, what happens? The blood flows from the right side of the heart to the lungs. What for? For oxygenation. What for? For oxygenation. What is oxygenation? Addition of oxygen into the blood. All right. So, this circulation of blood is known as pulmonary circulation. What is it called? It is called as pulmonary circulation. The right auricle, first of all, understand it this way. This right auricle, it receives deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood means the oxygen poor blood from the different parts of the body. All right. So as you can see here with this arrow, it is shown the deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body is brought into the right auricle. The right auricle, it receives this oxygen poor blood from the different parts of the body. All right. Thereafter, the blood which is received by the right auricle is sent it is sent to the right ventricle. Now, from the right ventricle, this deoxygenated blood is transported through the pulmonary artery to the lungs. So, the deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle is carried to the lungs for oxygenation by the pulmonary artery. All right. Now, after the deoxygenated blood has reached the lungs, there will be gaseous exchange taking place in the alveoli, and the oxygenation process will be carried out by the lungs. Now, after the blood is oxygenated, what will be done? This oxygenated blood from the lungs will be returned to the left auricle through the pulmonary vein. So as you can see here, this arrow with red color, it shows the oxygenated blood is carried through the pulmonary veins to the left auricle. So this is the first circuit. So I suppose it's very clear to each one of you which blood is brought to the heart and how the blood is getting oxygenated. Let me tell you once more. The deoxygenated blood is brought to the right auricle. From the right auricle, the blood is transferred. It is sent to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, the blood with the pulmonary artery is reached to the lungs. In the lungs, the gaseous exchange takes place and the blood gets oxygenated. The deoxygenated blood gets oxygenated blood. Then the oxygenated blood is carried through the pulmonary vein to the left auricle. So this is how the blood is oxygenated. The deoxygenated blood is made oxygenated and it is reached to the heart, the left side of the heart. Now, this is called as pulmonary circulation of blood. The next topic that you need to know is the second type of circuit. In the second type of circuit, the oxygenated blood from the left side of the heart is distributed to all parts of the body except the lungs. And this circulation of blood is known as systemic circulation. Now, what happens in this circuit? The oxygenated blood from the left auricle. Where is the left auricle? Here is the left auricle. So, which blood was brought here? The oxygenated blood was brought here through the pulmonary vein. All right. So, now this blood, the oxygenated blood, is pushed into the left ventricle. Then, from the left ventricle, the blood is pumped into the aorta. What is aorta? Aorta is the largest artery of our body. Okay? Then, the branches of this artery then distributes the oxygenated blood to all the parts of our body. Here you can see the arrow is shown, and this arrow shows the different arteries which are connected to the aorta. One goes downside, lower side of the body, and one goes to the upper side of the body. So the arteries are divided here into upper and lower arteries. So here the arteries going to the upper part of the body carry the oxygenated blood to the upper part of the body, and the arteries which are going to the lower body parts, they carry the oxygenated blood to lower parts of the body. So this is how the blood is distributed through the aorta into the different arteries and finally to different parts of our body. Except the lungs. This oxygenated blood is not taken to the lungs. The oxygenated blood is only brought from the lungs to the heart. So now you have understood this much, how the deoxygenated blood from the lungs, from the heart, is taken to the lungs, and then how the oxygenated blood from the lungs is brought to the heart, and then it is distributed to different parts of our body. Now, let me tell you once again how the deoxygenated blood from all the parts of the body is collected. The deoxygenated blood from all the parts of the body is collected by two major veins. Which are the two major veins? It is the vena cava. In the beginning, we have discussed about vena cava. Vena cava is the largest vein. So, the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, they are together called as vena cavae. It brings the deoxygenated blood from the upper part and the lower part of our body, and this is poured into the right auricle, and pulmonary circulation of the body of the blood, it starts again. So what is superior vena cava and what is inferior vena cava? The vein which is bringing the blood from the upper half of the body is called as superior vena cava, and the vein which is bringing the blood from the lower half of the body is called as inferior vena cava. So it is the vena cava which is bringing the deoxygenated blood from the various parts of the body, and it is brought to the right auricle, and thereafter the pulmonary circulation of the blood takes place. So this is how the systemic circulation transports blood between the heart and the entire body, and the blood, it keeps on passing alternatively between the two circuits which we have discussed, and this process, it continues as long as the person lives. So I suppose it's very clear to each one of you the pulmonary circulation and the systematic circulation. So with this, I end up today's session. Hope you have understood the blood circulation. God bless you.